Let's welcome everybody in. The Real Kyper and Bourne Show on this Monday, November 20th. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee, Derek Brandeo, Jen Rolnick, all together here. And let's not forget we are live on Sportsnet 590, Sportsnet 360, and Sportsnet Plus from 4 to 6 p.m. This is the Willie Nylander, our edition of Real Kyper and Bourne. The Global Series is done and over with. The Toronto Maple Leafs back home with all 4 points. Willie Nylander back with 5 points in 2 games. And JB, we are talking next level stuff here out of Wee Willie.
Yes, old Willie with all the pressure. You know, the line was 2 blocks long, I guess, waiting just to shake his hand, get an autograph. Graham is in the stands for the first time in his NHL career. Goal and 2 assists the first night, and then the OT winner. I mean,
when he's going, right?
And I don't even know if he was going the whole time, but he was clutch for the Leafs. So fairy tale stuff.
Austin's going to have to change that clip to he's going all the time.
He's just going.
What time did you guys have to get here yesterday?
Man.
For your TV call?
I was in here around 6:30.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You?
Well, you know, it was weird. You know, I was there around 6:15, but the people who worked on the show were there at like 4:30. I don't know what they do, and that sounds terrible, but there's equipment and
people back
the people who do the real work are there very, very early.
And I do have a phobia of sleeping in on.
Were you like a
days.
5 alarms guy?
I am, that Seinfeld episode when, he's got that marathon.
For the marathon.
And he's got like the triple backup to wake him up and he still sleeps in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my fear. Always trade deadline day, all those years that I worked at Sportsnet doing that hockey stuff there. It was always the fear that you're not going to be there.
You made it.
I am a person who is terrified of being late, so I know that feeling.
Also
And
hate being late.
I woke up yesterday. I didn't see a minute of your pregame because I woke up at like the crack
Which
of 8
is
a.m.
shocking to me.
Well, I just was
I
like,
was shocked by that.
Like,
too.
how are you not?
I didn't set an alarm. It's Sunday morning. I open my eyes. I'm like, oh, there's a hockey game on. I got to get down
what
there.
not having kids is like?
Yes.
You just wait till your body wakes up.
Yeah, sometimes old Lou Dog kicks me in the leg a little bit, and I wake up. I'm like, I better get up a bit.
That was the first, though. Like, to puck drop at 8 a.m.
Yeah.
Very weird.
I've played in an 11 a.m. game in Philadelphia.
I played in the minors,
Which
dude. We played all sorts of weird
I
hours.
can't eat pancakes. I'm sorry, but for a pregame meal.
Love that as a pregame meal.
Do you?
Oh, yeah. So tired of the pasta. I can't nap. So I loved an afternoon game because everyone was on my level. No one got to have an extra sleep on me.
I will say, it was awesome to have a Leaf game at 8 a.m.
Right to hockey, then football?
Well, yeah, I got up. I made a wonderful pot of coffee, a little bit of breakfast, got the feet up, watching hockey.
It's game time.
And then
let's get hungry.
And then straight into football.
Yeah.
I was on the couch from legitimately 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I watched football until I watched the Grey Cup. I was all in, everything.
Well, I think it gives you some idea of at least the commitment they have
I think you
to.
say, what a schlub I am.
Well,
That's
a given. I don't have to make note of that.
They know.
But I think
They know at home.
we'll get into the Leafs, of course, momentarily here. But it gives you some idea of the importance that the league has now to go find new revenue, because this is what Sweden's all about. And they're like, well, why are we going there? And it's already popular there, but there's broadcast rights, there's streaming rights, there's potential.
You're saying you want to sell those things to Sweden
continually and grow it.
Yeah.
And 20 years ago in my era, the owners would never have agreed to this.
Mm-hmm.
They would have said, what are we, nuts? Why are we giving up a gate? Why are we making people get up at 8 a.m. to watch our product? I'm not giving up a night of selling beers, which essentially Detroit and I guess Minnesota, those might have been the home teams.
Yeah.
They needed to give up their gates. So, but this is the
Leafs
new way to.
Leafs were giving up a gate.
Underrated story from this whole thing is like, I know the hockey operations guy for the Leafs is Brad Lynn. I don't know if it was him who did the negotiating, but they were the ultimate victors out of this whole scheduling thing. Like, they had 2 teams that were both on back-to-backs, which they drew. And then they come back and they don't play again till Friday. Detroit plays in 2 days. They play on Wednesday night. New Jersey's coming to town. So Detroit went there, had to play in the wrong end of a back-to-back, comes home and has to play one of the best teams in the NHL.
Yeah.
The Leafs just like, we're not doing it unless everything's in our favor.
I'm sure Darren McCarty's radio show is a little different about the Swedish trip.
experience.
Why wouldn't the Leafs play that hand, right? It's like,
No, it's well played.
Hold on. You want us there? Okay, here's our list.
Yeah.
Here's our list.
Here's
no
the rider, no
back-to-back
brown
games.
M&Ms or whatever the joke is.
We get a night off. And we don't have to play till the end of the week.
And to their credit, they took advantage of those teams in those spots and got their points.
So they flew home right after the game. I imagine they're all pulling a Sammy now and sleeping in still.
Yeah.
Tomorrow,
they may not see the rink for a few days.
Don't think they'll see the rink tomorrow. And then it gets kind of like a little goofy.
They're not going to practice tomorrow?
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe you need 2 days
maybe
off.
Come to the rink and at least, talk about video
I'm not sure
and
I
go
would,
over a few things.
I'd put a hard practice together tomorrow. If you want to bring them in. But
they will, yeah.
The only thing that's that 2:00 on the road Friday, which is a Thanksgiving thing, I would imagine.
Black Friday, yep.
So, yeah, we had no Leafs games last week. There's no Leaf game till Friday again. And there's no NHL games Tuesday night or Thursday night this week. Very strange NHL schedule for the middle of December or November.
Any Raptors takes? Or
yeah. What do you think of Precious?
That Zach Wilson didn't look very good for the Jets yesterday.
Let's not talk about that.
All right, let's go to our first Kippers Clipper of the week with Sheldon Keefe talking about the Global Series.
It's a fitting end to the week for sure. For us, for Willie, for the fans, the city, the country, all that kind of stuff. I think it's a terrific close to the event. Yeah, so it's terrific how it works out. I, of course, would prefer that if we didn't get to the overtime, but if that's what we had to do to have a finish like that, we'll take it.
I actually don't think if you gave Sheldon Keefe the old truth serum, he would have thought they played very well in either game. But, I don't think he wants to pour cold water on the trip or the experience for anyone.
Listen, we did the game on Sunday, and we broke the game down pretty much the way we saw it. We saw some good things. We saw some things that we still didn't like. There's a long way to go for this hockey club. The good news is that they're getting points right now, which is hard for some other clubs to do. And all I saw was a weekend that bought them some time until figuring out a few things.
For sure. Yeah, the Joseph Woll experience was unbelievable. I thought that was one of his better games. He's now up to 5th in goals to expected goals, like the Sport Logic rating there. 909 save percentage. He looked really good and that's a bright spot.
And we talked on Friday before you left to do some TV, and Gord Stellick, by the way, did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Done this before.
He did a really good job.
Really good job.
The conversation with Doug McLean was potentially the most off the rails it's ever been.
Oh, really?
Oh, it was amazing.
Well, he got jealous because
they had a book
they
off.
have books out now, so they had a book off on Friday.
Yeah, real book off.
Any James Patterson references?
Yeah.
Jeff Rimmer chirp.
Yeah.
So it was the whole
experience. Yeah. Go download that podcast that pod on Friday if you missed Doug McLean's Off the Rails. So just getting us back on the rails here when it comes to the goaltending, we had a little bit of a different look at who should have started Sunday. And I said Samsonov, you wanted Wall, you won according to Sheldon.
It wasn't that I thought he would be better than Samsonov at all. That is a good sign for the Leafs, but it is going to be interesting to see if they see it as a 50-50 split now. Yeah. Based on the performance of the two guys, I think you wanted Samsonov to be the guy to play more, and Woll is playing significantly better. You balance that out, they're probably a 50-50 split at this point.
Yeah. I'll stand by the fact that I think that as I shut my phone off,
silent.
You got to still kind of lean towards Samsonov being the number one goalie. What does that mean? Does that mean you still try to get him to 47, 50, 52 starts?
I don't know. It's going too far in the other direction there for me.
And you're not ready to do that just yet.
It just hasn't been good.
He's been good.
A good game there.
He's been good the last couple of weeks. So I think it was the Raymond goal on Friday where I didn't like that goal.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that it wasn't followed up with another bad goal, or it was not like if he can just kind of cut it off on one bad goal and then just look like the guy that we saw a lot last year.
Yeah.
Then the Leafs have one less thing to worry about.
Well, and I think it's impossible to look at Samsonov and not recognize he was a big reason why you just got by the Tampa Bay Lightning the year before.
Yeah, I would say that I hate how much the goaltending has been a conversation so far this season.
You wouldn't say you do?
No, I hate it.
Oh, you do hate it?
Yeah, I do.
This is my nightmare.
Because it's just, when you have a goalie, that's a starting goalie.
You just want him to be...
It's something that, like, I don't know, say what you will about Frederick Anderson when he was here, but he was just the starting goalie, and he was the goalie that started the games, and you put him in there, and he was good.
Yeah.
If he wasn't good, he still played.
Yeah, you'd come in some days, and you'd be like, oh,
yeah,
the other guy's going. You'd be like surprised because he was the guy.
It just, to me, it's been so up and down already, right? Like the Samsonov experience, it feels like it's been a full season of him being tumultuous with him.
Yeah.
And it's November 20th. Wall has been the best goalie in the league, and he's been back down. It just feels like it's been so up and down to me.
For sure.
And I hate that with goaltending. That's the opposite of what you want to feel about your goaltending. You want it to be consistent and quiet.
Something's like they're going to have to implode for Brad Treliving now to think outside the box here moving forward. This is it.
These are their guys.
It has to be, don't you think? And the only thing that you can do now is focus on insulating them. That's your focus here. This is who they are, and you work with them like you just said.
Sammy showed you can win around, and I do think that they're both paid so little, compared to, most goalie tandems around the NHL, that you're right. You don't want to spend assets or cap space trying to improve a position that's probably about league average for them.
And I think this is pretty much where the league is headed, that you try to win with a Grubauer.
Yeah.
Right? You try to
Hill.
work with a Hill. You try to win with a Binnington.
Did not see goalies becoming NFL running backs where it's like, ours is as good as the next
and they
one.
are.
We'll give them,
And they are. And just worry about the blue line and worry about big guys protecting them and just make the saves that you're supposed to. And
I think,
don't stand on your head and steal every game that we need.
I think there's something to be said about it's not that those positions have been devalued. It's that the people got so good at that position that there just doesn't seem like there's that much better. You can't get much better than 93% save percentage. Or
they became less predictable too. Like it's just such a crapshoot.
More predictable goalies.
I think to pay them high end.
Oh yeah,
to pay them high
you're
end.
Going to get that kind of
you're
performance.
going to get that level.
Yes,
they've become less predictable. There's some that you look how long it took Bobrovsky to show full value on $10 million. Who's got 3 years to wait?
Yeah, no, you're right.
And they would have got probably rid of that contract if they could have a lot earlier. Yeah, but they didn't, and good on them. It finally paid off last season.
And any of these guys can get hot at any time. So Samsonov could get hot, or Woll could get hot just as easy as the next guy. So.
And if you're going to be spending we had Bukala on last week and talking about the assets that the Leafs have to play with. If you're going to be spending those assets, is it goaltending that you want to address?
Well, that's it. If you go get John Gibson, are you sure he's better than Samsonov?
Well, the guy that you would be talking about, and that's been rumored already, is Saros, right? Like Oilers, that it's been rumored, and like that's the guy that's kind of been talking. If you're going to do that, maybe.
But his numbers haven't been great this year.
Yeah,
you're just not sure.
I'm sure on him.
I'm sure he's better than the Leafs goalie.
Yes.
I am sure about that.
But
I'm
like
not
to me,
sure how much better the performance would
Listen,
be.
we'll fix the Oilers in the next hour on our national show. Don't worry. That's a very hot button topic.
Every shot
right
going
now.
in the net needs to stop. Just every shot goes in.
Fair enough.
All right, I teed this hour up as the Willie Nylander hour, so let's go to Sheldon Keefe on Willie.
I just think he's got such confidence and swagger here now that he's just feeling like he can turn the game at any point in time. So I think that's just the biggest thing. I don't think he would look at these two games and say that he played his best hockey, but he stepped up in big moments, and was a huge part of why we got 4 points here. And with all that said, a great opportunity for Willie, to come here and play, in his home city and country. but he had a full plate while he was here. I mean, like more so than probably anybody that was here from the entire of the 4 teams. The obligations that he had, that he filled. So to be able to do that, still spend time with his family, and still put on a show on the ice, and make the impact that he did is tremendous, and thrilled for him.
Hey, important Willie conversation. Did you see the clip of him on that Swedish talk show in just a undershirt, and the old Swedish lady like grabbing his shoulders and being like, "You're a nicely developed boy."
I believe she called him a groovy dude.
A groovy dude.
It's a groovy man, maybe.
And he was like,
I just assumed it was like 90 degrees out there in Stockholm.
It looked like Willie was having a bit of a Me Too moment, like easy.
The same shirt as the female host he was wearing.
Was he really?
Yeah, it's exactly the same.
What a vibe that show had.
Listen, when you're a couple of points from leading the league in scoring.
Oh, he's a groovy dude.
You can pull anything off like that.
Oh yeah, and he seemed to embrace it. Like he didn't seem uncomfortable. He didn't seem like he just.
The best part of that clip is them flashing to Järnkrok and Klingberg, who are sitting in the front row. I've never seen 2 guys laughing so hard. Like, can you just imagine that? Like, you are 2 guys who play for the Leafs, and like you're clearly stars there, like Järnkrok and Klingberg, who well-known guys, but like William Nylander is Ohtani there right now. Like, he is on another level, and they're just sitting in the front row.
But how
as like
how does him
audience members
dressing like that come to fruition? How does it happen?
That, Luke Fox asked a lot of great questions, but my first question would have been, how did you decide on that wardrobe for the talk show, Willie?
Yeah. Did you bring
just the first thing I grabbed out of the drawer?
Just out of shirts. I've been at too many events.
Yes.
Here's what we got left.
I didn't pack enough.
Everything's in the dry cleaners. This is it.
Yeah, we flew across the world. I didn't bring my whole wardrobe.
He is right now as close to as an untouchable as there is right now. Like, there is not even a thought of
trading Willie.
Not even trading, envisioning the Leafs without Willie right now. No one wants anything to do with it. And I know, you hate me because maybe a week ago, 10 days ago, I brought up the money, and you can't talk Willie right now without talking money. I got a news flash for you, and you hate that.
This is like my biggest hobby horse, and I know people probably get so sick of hearing me say this.
No. You represent
but it's just like
portion of the audience.
I loved those 2 games with him scoring the tying goal against Detroit, him scoring the winning goal, like in front of his family. Michael Nylander going nuts.
Family's loving it.
And it's just, I just know that the enjoyment level of it is not nearly as high as it should be, because it's all surrounded by this conversation of him getting paid, what he's going to get paid, is he going to stay, it's just like there's no other sport that this would be a conversation. If this guy played for the Boston Celtics, it's just max contract. If this guy was playing for the Buffalo Bills, here's $400 million. Yeah. If he's on the Blue Jays, well, maybe not the Blue Jays, purse strings a little tighter there. Maybe if he's on the Dodgers, they're like, here's $300 million.
As a Leaf fan, for you, it's the fear that he might leave.
No, it's this. It's that every time he has success, it's correlated to a negative for the Leafs.
Yes.
So he has success, and you're supposed to feel as a Leafs fan, that's a bad thing that he's succeeding.
Like, I'm almost cringing every time he has an amazing play, because I'm like, oh God, there's another
and that's
$250K.
The opposite of the fan experience, where you're like, our guy did great. Now it's like, oh, but that sucks for us. It's like, that's a bad spot.
Yeah, I believe that he's going to sign, and they're just going to figure it out.
I think that's probably the way to do it.
And there's just even if the window is between 10 and 12, there's a number there. And it might, some might argue that he's not worth 11 or 11.25 now, but I think he's firmly entrenched in being a top 10 player in the league.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of good players when you start listing them.
Top 10. Let's do top 10 forwards.
Sure.
Yes, same thing.
I think there's enough.
Well,
no, it's not the same
players.
It's not the same thing. Top 10 players in the league versus top 10 forwards are 2 very different conversations.
Sure. Like, when you look at the top 10 paid, he fits in there. How's that?
Yes, that's
okay.
fair.
We can have that conversation.
Yes.
Yep.
Right. We can all judge. Oh no, he's no good. He's better. He's more consistent. He's not. But when it comes to top 10 paid guys, there is an argument today that he fits somewhere
'cause there's
between
some stinker
Austin
contracts in there.
Matthews and Mitch Marner, who would be at the bottom end at 10.9.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. But I do think there's enough elite players in the NHL who have recently signed deals. Like Matthew Tkachuk last year signed 9.5.
Yeah.
8 times 9.5. Sebastian Aho in Carolina. 9. Is he
Yeah.
9 even? Very good player. You know, there's enough really good players that I agree that he's probably in that 11 range or whatever. But you can point to these other guys and go, we'll give you the extra year. I'm not asking you to be in the 9s,
Yeah.
but let's say you're 10.7 or whatever it is. Anyway.
Yeah, but it's not going away. My whole point is that it doesn't go away, and the owners wanted a salary cap. I think that it took maybe the fans 10 or 15 years to truly understand how it can work against you, against your team, and nobody should like it. Other than the owners, it completely sucks for everybody else, including the Leafs. As an ownership group, you don't want to see them go out the door. You gladly in an open market give them 14, 15 million bucks as a drawing card.
Well, I look at the NBA and it's like, it's a hard thing to compare because they just, TV deals, there's so much more money involved.
Well, there's 12 guys on the bench and you're making the same revenue.
But like, let's just say, I don't know who the equivalent of a William Nylander is in the NBA, but there's a lot of really great players in the NBA that make obscene amounts of money.
Yeah.
And it's not really talked about. Like, it's not like a conversation. People are like, oh, what a play by LeBron, but God, he's making a lot versus the cap. It's
I know.
It's not a conversation.
It doesn't. Nobody cares as long as it doesn't affect your team.
Better. Yes.
As long as it doesn't hurt my chances, I think, of winning.
You're on
At the end of the day, if the owner overspent, and
who cares?
That's your problem.
Right.
Not my problem.
But when it means you have to start sending our guys away because you overspent, now it's a story for the fans.
Correct.
Which is why we talk about it, which is why it sucks, which is why you're both right.
But I would argue that the Leafs haven't really overspent. They've just had the bad.
I agree with
They've
you.
had the bad fortune of having great players that are worth a lot of money, and you can't do it.
No, they overspent
On Tavares.
But let's say you want to shave $1.5 million off all these guys.
It just
overspent on who?
Yeah, they overspent. I think the Tavares. They could have probably had Matthews and Marner tied up around the 10s, and didn't have to catapult over Tavares.
Sure, but even if you shave off, you give all these guys a haircut, and you have $3 million extra dollars, like you don't suddenly have Willie Nylander here. They're tight because they have good players.
You're a product, like it's like this cap situation's
Justin, hold on for a second.
Yeah.
Maybe $3 or $4 million it could be a really good defenseman. You know, so it does matter. It does matter.
Well, I know, and that's why my
counts.
defense of them, that the cap should have gone up this $3 or $4 million, and then they'd have a really good defenseman. Wouldn't have to trade one of these guys. I think holds water. It does matter a bit in terms of making your overall team better, for sure.
Yeah,
but.
Yeah.
It does suck to say, I wish we had less good players. That's the only way to fit under the cap.
Yeah.
And next year, we're really just talking about next year because this is the last one off of Tavares's $11 million. And then it should open up.
Which is why they can't trade Marner or Nylander.
Next year. Next year's. We don't know what's going to happen. They could go on a run and they can end up in a conference final or a Stanley Cup final. They can get knocked out in the first round again.
Right.
And then you got to come back next year to what? A new Nylander $11.5 million contract plus Tavares at 11 plus Mitch Marner in his last year 10-9 and Matthews kicking in his new contract at 13.25.
You have to figure out this next season, Kip, though, because after that, you're talking about 2 cap raises. Maybe you're up to 90 or something by then. Tavares is off the books.
88 next year.
88 next year.
Yes.
And then the year after that, you're looking at 92 or whatever the number may be.
Maybe.
Tavares is off the books. If you still have Matthews, Marner, and Nylander, you're suddenly in a very good spot. But if you move one of them and all of a sudden Tavares is off the books and you just got 2 stars, you're every other team in the league.
I think my point is that them on overspending, maybe they overspend a little bit on their stars, but they don't have any of these anchor contracts that some of these other teams have. You know what I mean? Like there's no like Josh Anderson contract or, these other contracts around the league that are hampering their teams. Like Morgan Riley's on a pretty good deal now, right? Like that contract looks pretty smart.
Up to 15 points in 17 games.
Yeah, like that number looks pretty great at the moment. You don't have your goalies aren't locked in long term for a huge bad number.
Yeah.
Like they're in a pretty good spot.
They are,
but they have too many good players. They can't keep them.
As long as you can replace what you have with someone else that's pretty good. Like that's just, it's great to sit here, Sam, and say, hey, you know what? We haven't committed to a lot of things, but go out and replace those guys now. Yeah. And are you going to be better or worse for it?
Yeah.
That's the trick.
Yep. No, you're 100% right. But I just mean, anyways, you look down at their cap picture, and some teams are like, oh my God, that's a nightmare. And I look at the Leafs, and I'm like, wow, they got some good players under contract, and Kampf and Yarncroc, and that's pretty much it. So you got to replace them. But hey, I get this tweet a lot, and I've been getting this text already. Get your opinion on this. Like, how much of this is the contract here?
For Willie? I think it's a
legitimate question.
Because I get that tweet, and I got this text 4 or 5 times already on the text line.
I think what's important to note about Willie is that it's never been a doubt when he's motivated, he's an elite player. And so, yeah, there is a vibe that maybe some percentage of it is timing, that he's hit his career prime at the same time as his motivations peak. He's just in Sweden. Yeah. It would not shock me to see him tail off a little bit now home from Sweden.
Where's the... Envision him signing an $11 million contract, and then where is the tail off moving forward, I think is the bigger question, JB. And
it's also, Go ahead.
When he originally sat out for 3 months to get his 6.9, he came back in, and there were a lot of people upset.
He was awful when he came back.
Overpaid.
He stunk for a year and a half. He was not good.
And there was a lot of pressure because of that contract. Mm-hmm. What had happened when Matthews and Marner jumped over him, it was just a foregone conclusion that Willie's Willie, and the pressure's on Matthews and Marner, and Willie can kind of find his way as the third guy or even the fourth guy if you have Tavares in there.
Pretty chill.
And there was less pressure on him when he played 1 out of 4 games really well. And if he had lulls for 2 or 3 games, there wasn't a ton of heat on him. Now, after everything he's experienced about what the taste of consistency out of the Leaf fans now to match an 11, he doesn't have that same luxury moving forward to have nights off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's the question. Are you going to get the Willie that you have Willie now, or the Willie that we've seen hot and cold the last 4 or 5 years?
The other part of this is, remembering Willie in playoffs. Do you even care if you get mediocre Willie at times, if you believe he can do it when he's motivated and he's motivated in playoffs? If it seems important to him to win in playoffs, do you just go, if we can get the motivated version when it counts, we'll take it?
Listen,
at 11 mil, though, that's a tougher.
He has been better than actually. The perception was Willie's been better the last few years than even Matthews and Marner.
In the playoffs, yeah.
But
Matthews
not exactly Justin Williams here either, for 1 round win in 6 tries.
Yep. Matthews and Marner were unbelievable in the first round last year.
They were.
People overlooked that.
In the second.
100%, no question. But they were really good in the first round.
So basically, it's just, will you get this type of Willie moving forward for the next 8 years on a commitment of close to $90 million? Mm-hmm. That's a legitimate question.
It's scary. There's no question it's scary because I think if last year didn't happen, it would be scarier. But to me, he was really, really good last year too. And I think he's just taken a step. I think he's gotten better every single year he's been in the NHL.
Yeah. You know what, though? An 8-year contract takes you to 2032. What's the salary cap in 2030? Is it 110? Do you care if he's a 10 million or 10 and a half there? Like I know it always matters in the NHL, but as much as I worry about his motivation, his performance towards the end of it, if the cap's high enough, you can live with a guy. And
I would think Willie is smart enough to understand that a new contract of that magnitude he should have really good idea of the expectations from him moving forward.
Any chance he would take or sign a Matthews type contract where he would sign for 3 or 4 years?
That'd be ideal for me.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
at least you get motivated Willie again in a few years.
I think he says my one big shot here.
Show me the money.
Give me
that whole spiel.
I'm looking at 88 to 90 plus million. I want it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. How many times is he going to be fifth in league
And
scoring?
he does have a personality where Ryan O'Reilly can come here, look around and go, it ain't for me. And then there's Willie riding the TTC. And it's like, it seems to be a fit here.
Well, there's a certain clip about that. Number 5, Keefe talking about William Nylander in that fashion. Would you like to hear it?
Yeah, I'd like to.
Would.
Okay.
I just think he's unflappable. I mean, that's really it. Whether it's, the spotlight of playing in Toronto and the media and all the different things that come with being a Maple Leaf, I don't think that phases him. In fact, I think he loves it and enjoys it, likes it that way. He lives here in Sweden's biggest city, and you can see he's a bit of a rock star here. We learned that. He just enjoys that, and he's not bothered by it. I think he's a guy that's really pretty much spent his life in the NHL, right? As the son of an NHLer. So I think he knows exactly what it means to be an NHLer, to give back to the game and to be in a locker room and be around a team and to be with fans and all these kind of things. He's been around it his entire life. So I think all that sort of stuff he was built for.
That's why he leads the Kippers Clippers, Sheldon, because every once in a while we're on the same page.
Yeah.
That's a really thoughtful answer to what makes Willie Willie. I love the top 10 in league scoring right now.
So weird. I was looking at it. It's really weird.
The 3 Canucks are tied with 28 points, Miller, Pettersson, and Hughes. And after that, it's Kucherov, Nylander, Pasternak, Panarin. There's Cale Makar and Rantanen. Like, it's a great list of people who are all paid
Sam
pretty
Reinhart
well.
up there.
I did skip over Sam Reinhart because he didn't fit the bill.
But still, I mean, that shows you how good I have a Nylander clip here, guys, and I just cut it because it's hilarious. We're talking about like this huge spotlight. Scores a game-winning goal in his hometown in front of his whole family playing for the Leafs, and this is how excited he was. Derek, can we get that clip of him scoring the OT winner?
I mean, it was pretty special for sure to get that OT winner there. But yeah, I mean, it was a great 4 points for us here, and hopefully bring that on the way back home.
Unflappable, like,
Yeah.
But you just had like a lifetime.
Maybe he's a sociopath. Like, that's not even a normal response. Like, whatever.
His thought is, what's the shortest answer I can give you and get the heck out of here?
For sure, but it's like,
which is great.
I mean, he just had like a movie moment. If they wrote that in a movie, you would be like, that's way too far-fetched.
Right.
That's a corny ending. No way anyone would ever believe that. And he's like, yeah, it was pretty special. We got 2 or 4 points. I don't know how many. Let's go.
If I were Nylander, I would have talked to so many people after that trip. Like, I feel like I'd go sit under a blanket and hide for like a week. I would be emotionally exhausted. He must just be so tired of talking and hearing his own name and saying thanks.
You think this trip at all affects them, like you're kind of mentioning a little bit? Or you think they're...
Yeah, I can't see
it won't be
helping.
a blip.
I just think it's really hard to like get back into the swing of things. Everyone else is playing steady games and normal rest and normal schedule. I think it's possible that I don't think they're going to like lose a bunch, but it'd be interesting to see how they come out. Do we have Sheldon on that too? Did we have a clip about
the effect of the season this trip? I think it's clip number 3.
We do have that.
Do that.
In terms of how it affects the season, it's time will tell. We're going to do all that we can to manage it here when we get back home. Like I had sort of alluded to before we got here, I've talked to different coaches that have been through this experience before, and different people. Guy Boucher, as a head coach, has been through something like this before, and teams haven't always responded well. It's taken time to dig out of it. So it's going to be on us to manage that here now. So, in terms of the impact on our season and on our schedule, that remains to be seen. How we get back home and deal with it. But in terms of the experience itself,
they do fortunately come out of the gates. They get the Blackhawks, so that's helpful. I mean, they lost to them earlier this year, but
another weird start time, 2 p.m., which is very strange. Like, we get looking forward to a 7 p.m. puck drop.
So
again.
it's just
Classic
Chicago
hockey
and Pittsburgh back to back.
Yeah.
Friday, Saturday, and then they return home.
Yeah. and they return home to play, I believe, the Panthers on
They got
next
Florida,
Tuesday night.
Seattle, Boston next week. There's a Saturday night Boston Bruins game.
Oh, baby. Love
That should be
that.
fun.
Rivalry week. I wonder if they'll put Reeves in for that game to go chase Marchand around.
All
By
right.
the way, I think Reeves is going to play next game.
Yeah, probably.
I just, you can't sit him out forever. And
All right, we'll pick up on that. Plus, we'll talk a little bit of the Leaf Blue line. Klingberg. What will happen to John short term and long term? That and more when we return after the break. You're watching and listening to Real Kyper and Bourne. The Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee. Toronto Maple Leafs have ample time, as we do. We should take time off when the Leafs are off.
think so?
Yeah.
I'll propose that to the bosses. See how that goes.
There's no games. Then what do you want to listen to us for?
I can't answer that question, but I don't argue, Kip. I just show up.
Sammy would show up anyways.
Oh, what? I would?
Just be here talking about Matt Sundin. The jersey behind me, by the way, today is a beautiful Sundin kit.
Thank you, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he looked like he really enjoyed the moments. The spelling of Matthews by a dozen guys.
Yeah.
And then they turned it to Matt's.
Matt's for a picture. That was really cool.
Yeah. Now,
He had the big thumbs up in the picture. He looked happy.
Now, a little speculation about Matt's, you think?
Well, I saw some people talk about him. You see Alfredson going with the Sens. And I mean, it's a pretty easy parallel to draw.
No, it's not.
Well, same era.
Yeah, that's
for
it.
Matt's
That's it. That's the only parallel you can draw. One guy lives in Ottawa.
Matt Sundin.
And the other guy lives in Stockholm.
I know but for the outsider, famous guy from that same era with his team.
Yes.
Famous guy from the same era with the Leafs.
Yeah.
I would also say that I think it's well understood in all hockey circles that Jerome McGinley is literally just waiting for his kids to grow up, and then he's going to have whatever job he wants at the Flames.
Yeah.
That's an
his,
understand.
His son is lighting up the dub right now.
Is
Like
he?
the
Yeah.
Kelowna Rockets, yeah.
I think it would be
He
great
does up.
to see Matt's involved more, but I don't think right now with his young kids and his family, it's not high on his priority list.
Okay.
But it'll eventually be high on his priority list.
You'd have to, if you're Matt's, you'd have to come back and move here. How else can you be involved?
No, you can't. You're not going to be.
Right.
Well, Cronwall does some stuff for the Red Wings.
Yeah, you can be like a scout or something.
He's like the European coordinator. They were talking about it on the broadcast that he does some stuff over there.
A lot of times these old guys are like, just give him a picker title. We'll pay you, be
Listen,
involved.
You think Matt's wants to be a scout in Europe?
No.
Go to buildings that.
no chance.
Come on.
No
No,
way.
but maybe
Stop
he'll
it.
No, you're
wanna
right.
draw a check and be involved in some way. People
Draw
like
a
money.
check.
You don't think people like money?
This guy, he's made $100 million. He doesn't need any more.
I know
He's
some 100 millionaires
really
who like
good.
money still.
to become a scout.
Yeah, not to make scout money. No, good point there.
No, really good point.
He'd have enough to buy, khaki slacks and a black vest so he could look like a
No,
scout.
you have to get a tucked-in golf shirt to your khakis. That's the mandatory
The
scout
vest
outfit.
over it.
Yeah.
Before the two games in Sweden, there was some talk that with Klingberg that he may play, he may not play, but really coming out of Stockholm, there's a real sense that there's a bigger concern here moving forward. Now, I think our Luke Fox may have had some quotes about him dealing with whatever he's dealing with, and it didn't sound like he sounded very optimistic.
I believe it was Brad May who once said, "Well, it's not good." This is. You had you talked about Klingberg and the LTIR. The next day, Klingberg played for the Leafs, and then after that, he just couldn't. And this Sweden thing, let's not forget, a big name in Sweden, right? Klingberg has had a lot of NHL success, and he didn't even have the chance to play in a game, let alone practice over there. So,
I think the quote you saw was from Sheldon Keefe. He was concerned that John Klingberg's injury could linger a little while, and he said, "Yeah, it's certainly getting to that place." So there's no quote from actually Klingberg in this piece that I'm reading right now. But
listen, as long as long-term injury reserve is out there and teams continue to use it, it has to be a viable option if he is not healthy. It has to be.
the thing that stands out to me, and I mentioned this to you before the show, is like for the Leafs to be able to then use that money, for them to be able to go spend the $4.1 million that's going on LTIR, he can't be coming back at any time. You can't go replace Klingberg with that money, and then in March he's ready to go and you don't have room for him. So it either, for the Leafs, he may go LTIR, but that really handcuffs them because they can't spend that money.
The only way, you're absolutely right, JB, the only way this can help the Leafs alleviate the cap space is if he's done for the year.
Unless he wants to come back a la Kane, Kucherov,
no,
whatever.
it has to be a Muzzin scenario.
Right, but I'm saying maybe he's ready for playoffs and he's available at that point. But,
Maybe.
Yeah. But, yes, he would have to be done for – and that would mean surgery again for that to be the case. So, right, he's not just going to, rehab for 6 months.
Yeah, it could happen. He could rehab.
Think so?
Well –
would that be
bad backs?
Rehab?
Well, listen, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I don't know. Just tell us when you feel like you can play. And if you can't play at 65 or 70, and guys with bad backs or, he's had 2 hip surgeries, what's going on there? Whatever the case is, you can avoid surgery and go through a strict rehabilitation and maybe get to the point where you can be a lot more successful at 85 or 90% than the 60 you're at now.
So if I'm not mistaken, he's already missed.
And this will drive fans from other teams nuts and other teams nuts too. But we've seen this scenario already in the National Hockey League. What the Leafs are any different? Other teams have used long-term to their benefit.
Oh, yeah.
Vegas are Stanley Cup champions. Vegas
was
What do you
actually...
think the Lightning aren't?
I think Vegas was maybe the most untold story of that. Didn't they end up having 3 guys, like Shea Theodore, Eichel, and someone else came back? Stone came back after the season, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is insane.
Those are 3 quite important players to their Stanley Cup win, I would say.
Having those players not count towards your cap would be handy. So, sure, they're well within their rights to do so if you can convince him that this is not a short-term LTIR. This is really emphasizing that L in the TIR.
Do you think he's going to play again?
Ever?
For the Leafs?
Listen, it's they don't know. He doesn't know. Yeah. Whatever's going on, they need answers first. That's a medical thing. That's what course of action do we have to move forward? There's no way anybody would just be guessing right now on Klingberg's future, including John himself.
Yeah.
Sooner they can get those answers, the better, though.
Yeah, I don't think they're coming. I don't believe that they could come, in the next day or two.
No.
I think this is one of those, whatever we're doing now, we're probably going to have to wait maybe another week or 2 to see whatever is bothering him settle down and see if we can build it back up.
And in the interim,
transatlantic flight didn't help anything.
Yeah, it is frustrating, seeing an organization with all their resources. I guess you have to bring them to Sweden. So maybe, I shouldn't maybe critique that then. But that's disappointing to see a guy had something he's struggling with hurt by the travel. Also on Friday, I would expect they'd get Connor Timmins back.
Yeah, so I think they're excited about that too.
Well, I mean,
he had a good training camp.
Yeah, he looked really good. I know.
Everybody has a good training camp.
Right. It's a different sort of environment. But yeah, I mean, they have had Benoit and Legason eating plenty of minutes. So if they can use Timmins for 18 or 16 or whatever, that would be very nice. Okay, not 18. That was a lot.
18's high.
18's high.
What'd you make of the ice times on Saturday? On Sunday morning.
To note, Nick Robertson and who else? McMahon, both under 8 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And Domi too. Domi under 8 minutes as well.
Yeah, I saw that.
Thoughts on that?
Yeah, in a perfect world, you want to trend the other way.
Sure.
And the one thing that's been constant is either one night it's the Matthews and Marner show, and one night it's Nylander and Tavares show, and it appears that it has to kind of continue until you find some real consistency on some balanced attack from everyone else.
You guys know I haven't loved that third line. Even though they have contributed and helped them win some games, I haven't loved that line. I think what was happening against Minnesota is Evison, Dean Evison, is that his name?
Dean.
Yeah, on the other side, was
Evison.
targeting that line. Like, he was trying to get their best line out against that line because they would get hemmed in the Leaf zone, and they were on for a goal against, and Sheldon kind of just said no more and played the big dogs the rest of the way.
And where did the big dogs leave on ice time on Sunday?
Matthews was 21-18. Willie was 23-09.
Wow.
Marner 20-51, and Tavares was 19-07.
For a game that goes to
And
OT,
Morgan-
it's pretty reasonable.
Morgan was 26-03.
Yeah,
Morgan's
those are big
average
numbers.
on the year is now 25 minutes. And we were talking before.
See, I just think it's just way too heavy.
All right, look at their decor. They got
And I'm not
injuries.
sure-
They're struggling.
I'm not
He's
sure.
been awesome.
There are some guys, like, just complete horses that can
I
handle.
want horses back there.
I do. I always want horses back there.
Well, he's
that,
been
that,
there.
that can handle. I know, but Morgan to me doesn't have the body type or the makeup to consistently be a 26, 28 guy.
So
Some
you're worried
guys
that
are.
if he kept doing this, it would affect him because he's been doing it. And
I
he's
do
been-
worry about, overtaxing Morgan. Get Morgan ready again. And I know last year there was a lot of question marks about Morgan's regular season, and then he became the player that everybody envisioned in the playoffs. That blue line's already been taxed, right? The injuries,
Yes.
Liljegren, Timmins not being there, the depth, Gio. We talked about Gio Sunday morning. I tip my hat off to that guy because
19-something on Sunday morning.
again, another 19, 20 minutes here, which is okay for now. And I get it. Sheldon, I get it, man. Well, what else are you going to do? You're trying to win a hockey game. But
Right.
you just don't need that in November piling on.
It's just
Morgan,
so hard.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, man.
I was just going to say Morgan Riley's 8th in the league in average ice time, behind Dahlin, Yossi, Miro Heiskanen, Seth Jones, Travis Sanheim, Drew Doughty, and John Carlson. The guys in front of him.
He's playing the tough matchups. He's leading the team in plus minus. Him and Brody are up there, playing a lot of minutes. 24, 46 is his actual number. But you look at that rest of that core, and it's like, okay, we can't do Legas and Benoit much. You've questioned McCabe at times, his ability to eat real minutes.
Coming on a little better now.
Yeah. And then you got
little
Brody
safer.
and Giordano, your other guys. Someone has to play those minutes. So I see that it's a decor criticism that they need some help for Morgan.
Depth.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to alleviate those minutes. The other thing I really liked Sunday was Nye's goal. It started 200 feet. You had talked about McCabe starting that one.
Yeah.
All 5 guys from one end to the other touched the puck.
I said that on Leafs Talk after the show, after the game, that Kyper was going to love that goal because it was a great passing goal, and the Leafs don't pass.
I don't know if you saw the board that was up at intermission that Kip, our producer David Azuma had a great board on the Leafs passing the offensive zone.
And he found that board based on listening to our show a couple of weeks ago.
And so he did some digging into it. And in the offensive zone, the Leafs were like, hey, whatever. There's 3 different categories, and they were 28th, 29th, and 31st in ozone passes.
Yeah.
So
you wouldn't really thought that.
no, but you would have, because you observed, they got a bunch of shooters.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting.
Yeah.
Robertson is a guy who shoots, and Gregor likes to shoot it, and obviously Matthews and Willie and Tavares like to shoot it. A lot of shooters on the Leafs. So when you do move it around a bit more, opens up some lanes for some of these great shooters.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
And Gio getting on his horse to drive the lane.
Yeah.
Support the puck.
It was
a nice goal.
that's the type of goal you think with that type of talent we should see a few more of.
yeah.
Well, maybe Gio, old guys do their best work at 8 a.m. Maybe he knew it was. Maybe his body clock.
That's
He's like
100% what it is.
He's like, I feel really good right now. It's 8 a.m. Let's go.
Take 40
You guys
more
missed the
games
best
at
part of
8
the day.
a.m. That way,
What time's your old guy
We'll
skate
give
at?
him his Geritol and we'll put him to bed by 10 p.m.
What time's your old guy skate at?
Oh, 8:30.
Oh, there you go. The boys.
8:30.
Everyone's
there's,
prime.
there's a theory. There's a
I'm
theory.
definitely going to be the kids miss the best part of the day at a 10 a.m. guy. I
All right.
feel it coming.
It's quite the Willie hour. And now we go national. Garry Galley's going to join us, and we're going to get into the Edmonton Oilers and who believes they can still make the playoffs and who doesn't. We'll get those answers after the break. More Real Kyper and Bourne. Don't go away. Welcome into our national hour on the Real Kyper and Bourne show. We are live on Sportsnet and Sportsnet 650 in Vancouver and Sportsnet 960 in Calgary. And as always, when Justin's not coughing,
Sorry.
We are Real Kyper and Bourne, brought to you by Bet365.
Yes, sir.
All right, boys. I just kind of teed it up on our last hour. The Edmonton Oilers with that loss to Tampa Bay on the weekend.
Yeah.
One that didn't include really McDavid or Draisaitl in the scoring department, are in a bit of a pickle here.
Yeah.
Because
serious pickle.
We are coming up to that famous now cut line of American Thanksgiving. The Oilers have 4 games to go to hit the magic 20 mark.
Yeah.
And they're on the road. I've got them in Florida tonight.
Yeah.
Carolina Wednesday, Washington Friday.
That's tough.
This is their season, guys.
You just can't get too deep in this hole.
Great observation.
You know, like it's been getting deep here, but boy, 5-10-1, a .344 winning percentage. That loss to Tampa. They were up 2-0 in that game.
Well, that's exactly it. Like you can play way better, right? You can play better. You can have a new coach, but the room for error is so slim now.
Yes.
Like you can't.
Heaven forbid you get an injury to an important person or something.
And, I watched that whole game on Saturday. It's just every shot goes in.
Yeah.
There's 6 on 24. It's like
6 goals on 24 shots.
Yeah, I think so. I think they had 43 shots.
And so Picard is going to start for them tonight, who hasn't played NHL games. Well, you're right. What's it going to be worse? Well,
why,
it's going to be worse than 861.
Okay, your season's on the line in the next 3 games.
Yeah, but the reason it's there is because of the goalies.
The other 2 guys have been so great.
I don't care. I don't care. I don't go to Picard when my season's on the line right now.
You know what, Kip? It's the Hamburglar Hail Mary. This is the Hamburger Hail. You're saying we need some 30-year-old to come up and just be a hero.
Now, imagine Connor and Draisaitl, they're struggling. They almost look to me like they've lost a little faith here.
They're saying they haven't. They're saying they believe.
What do you guys see? I see guys almost. I see them like on a human level. I just see guys that go. There's so much pressure on them. There's so much riding on their shoulders every night, and I think just from a human perspective, they're a little broken.
I don't think that's it.
No,
because it's been that way, right? It's been on them.
No, I know, but this is the first time that they've haven't drawn anything out of themselves. They don't have any answers right now.
Yeah,
I'm just saying that it looks like there's too much weight on their shoulders, and that if they're not breaking right now, they're certainly bending.
So Connor McDavid in 8 games in November has 4 points. 5 separate games. He's had
crazy talk.
5 separate games. He's had 0 points this month, and he has now gone 4 straight road games without a single point.
Why?
Connor McDavid.
You can't tell me that. Okay, there's a lot of speculation. He's hurt, but even if he's hurt, he can't be hurt that much.
Connor McDavid is not on the first 2 pages of the.
He's like 100
NHL.com.
What is going on?
Scoring.
Explain this to me, please.
Well, we just watched Austin Matthews do this last year,
Not
and you
like
go,
this.
I don't see what's that different, but
I don't think it was like this, was it?
no, this is a significantly different drop-off. He has 13 points on the season.
It's hard to
That's
fathom.
below a point per game
He's had 5 games without points,
this month.
and he had, 6 or 7 all season long last year.
I'd be shocked if he had that many.
To me, it's just he's not healthy. There's no explanations. There's
No,
No, but if he's not healthy and he starts poorly and he's a step behind.
I think there's a stress level going on with him right now that I've never seen before.
But you don't think there's a stress level in years past?
Yeah, but it wears on you, Sammy. It
I
catches
guess.
up to you. And let's bring in
and
Garry
they've been in
Galley.
good spots. Anyway, yeah, go ahead.
Hockey Night in Canada, Sportsnet. Terrific job on the weekend, Gary, calling Toronto and Minnesota. And I don't know how much you picked up of our conversation. It's on Connor McDavid. And the body language doesn't appear to me be at a level that we've ever seen before out of him. And I just think that maybe the stress or the wear is catching up to him a little bit. It's my only explanation. I may be full of crap. I'd love your thoughts.
Well, first of all, great job on Sunday morning. That was a different kind of animal for me. It's the first time I've ever done a game that early, and Bartz and I we're in a fog there for most of it. So hopefully it didn't sound that way. But you guys did a great job. But guys, like you guys have touched upon so many things that it could be. There's so many things that we don't know. The inner sanctum of what's going on within the Edmonton Oilers, and Connor McDavid would be part of all of that. But let me just throw something out there. And again, I don't have any factual stuff to say like this is what's going on with Connor McDavid, but he gave as much as you can give last year. And you mentioned the fact that he was only pointless and maybe less than the amount of games he's pointless in a row right now. And that's crazy. I mean, he was dominating as a player can be in the National Hockey League, and his team couldn't get there. And then he sees slippage. And he sees areas that are supposed to be fortified that aren't being fortified. And I wonder if, just internally, if he just sees that they just don't have what they need to win. And it's frustrating him, and it's just building up. And I think, sometimes when all these things you're thinking about, sometimes they affect the way you think, the way your legs move, the way your hands move, the way you normally fluidly go through your game when you just play without thinking. And maybe that's part of it. Maybe he just doesn't see the improvement he was hoping and the steps that his team has to take. And maybe that's eating away at him a little bit. I mean, you have everything that you wanted to get. I mean, him, and then, that you could possibly get individually. But the one thing that you need is your name on that Stanley Cup. And the one thing that a guy like Connor McDavid would deserve after what he would offer to the NHL fans and the NHL as an ambassador for all the years is a Stanley Cup. And he sees Jack Eichel get one last year in Vegas. And you think that would be a burr in the saddle right there. And at the end of the day, I think he sees how far maybe they are away. And maybe that's something that just psychologically is affecting him. But that's just like a toss out.
I'm on that page.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we're doing here is just trying to bat around these theories. So it sounds to me like what you're saying, if they were to go out and get a goalie, do you think that can help the mental state of the players who are struggling to contribute?
I believe so, because what a goalie that you're confident in, what a goalie does who makes the saves that he's supposed to make is he hides the imperfections of your hockey club, and he builds strong character and confidence within the hockey club. Because if you make a mistake and the red light goes on, you pull it out of your net, then you feel the anxiety of it. If you make a mistake and your goalie makes a 10-bell save and no one's the wiser a couple of hours later when the game's over, everyone's selling, you don't feel as bad driving home. You don't think about it. Probably forgot about it altogether. So a goalie can really do that. And I go back to my days in Buffalo, and with Dominic, and then the guys after me with Ryan Miller, and, Lindy Ruff had, he's a great coach, but I'm saying, to have goaltending like that and have that there every day for you that you're going to get, it does make it a lot easier for your team. And like I said, they can hide a lot of imperfections. Now, your goalies aren't expected to win every game for you. You have to play as a team. But certainly if your goalies aren't playing well, especially early in the season where you get a lot of dents in the fenders and you get a little broken tail light, and all of a sudden you got 4 or 5 guys that are not feeling it. And then the next thing you know, it just kind of, like a virus goes through your team, and it's a malaise, so to speak. And it seems to be, as hard as you try to get out of it, it feels like quicksand at times.
We're talking to Garry Galley, color analyst for Sportsnet Hockey Night in Canada. As we said earlier, you were on the call, the Leafs and Wild. Over your 1,100 games in the National Hockey League, Garry, you were part of some pretty solid defensive core groups here. What did you see coming out of Sweden with the Toronto Maple Leafs and the level that they're at now and where they need to get to make people believe that they can come out of the East?
Well, I don't for one second think that was inspiring hockey by the Maple Leafs over in Stockholm. I mean, did they get the job done? And good teams do that, right? Even though they don't necessarily play from the tips every game, they find a way to win games. Look at my Broncos. I mean, this is a prime example, right? But I mean, but the Leafs are finding a way to win games when they probably didn't deserve it. I thought it was some of the good things I would take out of Stockholm. Both goaltenders played pretty good. I mean, Samsonov early, maybe not so good, but at the end of the day, he's doing an interview and he's saying how great he feels that he was able to win a game for all the Swedish players, that he really likes his teammates, and that makes him feel good. So that's all part of being a good player too, is feeling good about your game, feeling good about yourself. So he looks to be in a better place, psychologically. And Woll, whose numbers have been kind of fading a little bit, he's had a couple of rough outings here or there. I think when they really needed a goaltender to be on his game right away early, I think he was. And I think he was for a good part of that Minnesota game, where the Minnesota Wild, and you listen to the interviews of Zuccarello and some of the players afterwards, they were like, they felt they played well enough to win that game. They feel good about that game. Unfortunately, they didn't win it. And I think a lot of credit has to go to Woll. And I think a lot of credit had to go to the defense that I thought interjected themselves into the offense a little bit more than maybe we've seen a little bit. Giordano up the ice a number of times. I thought played a pretty strong couple of games. Morgan Rielly up the ice. We saw him score again. And then, of course, that great defensive play. I think McCabe is starting to come around and get going. I do believe that. I think that they're not there yet, but I do see signs of some things. One of the things I noted during the broadcast was they don't produce a lot. They don't put up a lot of solid numbers. When you look at taking Morgan Rielly out of the mix, you look at the rest of the defense corps, there's not a lot of production coming out of there. So it was nice to see that there was a little bit of production from the backside. I mean, Giordano almost saved the puck from going in himself. He was right in a crease. I don't know how that didn't go in, but at the end of the day, I do believe that, this team is, everyone thinks that, getting through the first round of playoffs, the demons they needed, the dragon they needed to slay. I think there's more than that. I think there are some things that this team does sometimes that I feel baffle people, including their coaching staff and maybe their management people. And it just baffles them. And and I don't know if they have an answer for it or if anyone does, but they're like, when is this going to kick in? When is this going to just kick in? And it's just going to be automatic. It's just going to happen. It's not going to have to be talked about or gone in and hashed out. It's just going to be reactive, mechanisms that go on within their team that just make them a real good, solid team. There's no doubt they like one another and they're tight like that. But sometimes it doesn't, transcend onto the ice surface when things happen. So I think there's a lot of things going on. I think they've addressed some things. And although I don't think it was, like I said, their most inspired hockey, I think Sheldon Keefe would tell you that. But getting the points and coming out of there and passing teams in the standings, moving up, I think is a positive thing.
Gals, in the first hour of the show, we talked about Willie Nylander, as everyone has been talking about him. You've called a lot of Leafs games since the beginning of his career. Tell us about what you think the player Willie Nylander was when he first came in the league to what he is now.
I just think he's I don't know if you guys noticed, but it's just, to me, it's like it's an effortless kind of way he's playing. It's like there's no stress in his game whatsoever. He never looks stressed on the ice. His skating is just magnificent. He's just flying around the ice. And if there's such thing as a puck magnet stuck to you, I would think that he's got one stuck in there somewhere, because the puck just seems to follow him. And, I think his teammates are really happy for him. And this is a guy that has, that low kind of shelf meter where, he's never going to get like over the top, like excited craziness. And he's never going to get too low, even depending on how bad things are going. He's kind of perfect for the Toronto market. Like, he kind of gets in there. He dresses the way he dresses, plays the way he plays. He goes home. He's got his family, his grandmother. But have you seen your grandmother? No, not yet. He's got things to do. He's out there taking his teammates to get stuff going on. Like, he's got things he's got to get done, and he focuses on his hockey. And the one things his teammates talk about is he is very committed to his game, and he's very focused on his game. And I think those are things that you don't always notice someone when you watch them play on the ice. It's the things as a teammate of somebody, how they approach the game and how they play. I think his teammates are really happy for him. I think they're like, this is a guy that they always felt like could blow the doors out of it if he really got things going. And I think they're happy for him. And when I played in Philadelphia, you had the big line, the crazy 8 line, and you had to defense that line. You had to put everything against that line, first of all, and hope they didn't kill your players, but also that you could just tone down the amount of points they got. So what did Rod Brindamore and his line do? They lit it up. They lit it up because they weren't facing the hard checking. They weren't facing the best of the night. So it's up to them to go out and light it up. They are playing against subpar players on a lot of their shifts. And for Tavares and for Nylander and Bertuzzi, they got to go out and light it up, and they are. And I can see how that can happen, because I've watched second lines put up great numbers because they've got number one line players, but they're not getting number one line defensive checking against them. And I think if you're a coach coming into a game now on an opposing team, you're going, okay, we got a guy who can score 60, 70. He's pretty good. And then you got a guy who can be an Art Ross winner. I mean, with Marner, do we put the checking there, or do we put the checking on Tavares and Nylander? Well, you know where it's been going. And I don't think it's a shock that we're seeing these guys light it up like they are. They're good players, and I think that's a credit to them and the fact that they're doing it. Now, the bottom six guys, those guys have got to start chipping in too. I mean, in seeing the Leafs a little bit, I mean, they've got some guys in those bottom six that you need to chip in order to be successful, not just regular season, but in the playoffs. The bottom six guys have got to chip in.
Hey, Gary, as good as Willie was in Sweden, I don't think people woke up this morning and said that the Leafs are the best team in Canada. I think despite a couple of losses by Vancouver, people maybe pointing that finger to the Canucks. Would you agree with that?
Right now, it'd be hard to argue. I mean, they are playing a brand of hockey. It's an inspiring brand of hockey. I think you got to tip your hat to Rick Tocchet. I was a teammate of Rick's in Philadelphia. I know what Rick stands for. I know what Rick's all about. I know the kind of person he is, and it's not a shock that he went in there. When you play, I played for Terry O'Reilly. Okay, like if you don't come to the rink inspired to play when you play for Terry O'Reilly, then there's something wrong with you. You know what I mean? Like, you come to play for a guy like Rick Tocchet, a guy who played the way he did. Doesn't take much for these young guys, whether you think you know him or not. Just go look at some YouTube and you'll figure it out in about 20 seconds that this guy came to play. He was a gamer. And when he speaks from where he comes from, it's not like you can call Shark. You know what I mean? Like, this is a guy who does it. So and he will treat his players well. I mean, sometimes the persona it looks like is that he's crapping on his team, especially when things weren't going so good. What he's doing is he's identifying the problems with this team, and he's not letting them play good for a period or two, or play good for one game and then let off the gas pedal and go back to the old habits. He's got his thumb and his foot right on top of it. It's expectations. He knows what they can do. And I think they've made some really good deals, not blockbuster deals, but I think on the back end, with Roenick and Susie and guys like that you add in there, those are guys that aren't flashy, but they come in and they do a really nice job. And I think that opens up for Hughes to be a little more creative. And their guys up front that had some hard years are starting to feel it again. I really like just I just like the aura around this team. I just like the feel of it. Is it going to go through the whole season here? When they go through a 3 or 4 game losing streak, what happens then? They've got to handle a few things to me to see if it's really a legitimate, real deal. The Leafs have proven that they can have a rough start and rip through it. They've proven they can play, subpar and still win games. I mean, they're a good enough team. So I look at Toronto maybe at the end to be that team coming out at the end of the season. But right now, if you're asking me right now, I believe it's Vancouver right now.
Before I ask my next question, I want to know about your jersey collection behind you. I know people on radio can't see it, but on TV they can. Is that all yours? What are all those sweaters? Look at that collection.
Are you at Sport Check?
Well, when your middle name is Samsonite, you get a lot of opportunities to have jerseys, And so I was, and of course, guys, like, you have to understand, like, when you go on a team, every team now has a third jersey or a jersey they wear for a special occasion. So, I've got like, I started in 1984 with the LA Kings. So I have my original LA Kings purple and gold sweater that I had. I kept my original home one. I gave my away jersey. I gave my home one to my parents. And then, of course, I went back to LA in 97. And then you had the chevron black and silver. And then they went to the purple with the lion crest. And then they went back to the purple with the original crown, but a little bit more new. So I got like a ton of sweaters from the teams that I played on. And I'm always really feel blessed that the teams allow us to take our jerseys when we leave and let us have them, because they are the biggest keepsake that you have from the game. I mean, obviously, apart from winning a Stanley Cup or being part of a really good team that did something special, the sweaters are where the blood and sweat is. It's where your commitment was, and it really is something that I'm really cherished. Every now and then something happens, and I give one away. I give one to something special. I'll hand it off. I've got some of my sweaters I wore in Bantam and Pee Wee that people given to me over the years that they go, "Hey, I have this. You wore it when you were a Pinecrest Select." I'm like, "Oh, it's got the velvet lettering on it, the suede velvet lettering, and the whole bit." So, and then I've got some players like Rob Blake and Ray Bork, and I got an All-Star sweater from Wayne. I was very fortunate enough to get, and Torrey Krug got. So, Eric Gabranson, a local kid from Ottawa, real nice kid that I like. He signed a Florida jersey for me a while back. So I have some of those that I intertwine in there. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of blended out a little bit, but it's really nice. And people, especially when I was coaching minor hockey, the kids would come over, and I used to have the sweaters in frames, right? Had them all in frames, and I thought, put them in frames, but then you can't touch them, you can't look at them. And part of the thing is when these kids come over, I say, throw them on, put them on. The kids would be running around with the sweaters on stuff. That's really where, it's great to see. So I'm really blessed to have had them. And the trainers, the only team that wouldn't give me my sweater were the Bruins.
What?
And I can tell this story. Because I went to arbitration, and they traded me to Philly, and then I went into the locker room, and I don't know if you guys remember Dr. Bacardi, Kenny Flager, the trainer, was out in Vancouver. He was in Boston. The Dr. Bacardi, we called him, and Kenny's gone now, so I can say these things. So he was awesome. This guy was awesome. You didn't have to tell him your equipment was something wrong with it when you left to go home. When you came back the next day, it was fixed. He lived in the basement of the locker room. So when I came in to get my equipment, that day, he told me he felt so bad, but he says, "I can't give you your sweater. Harry won't let me give you your sweaters." I said, "It's okay, Doc. I appreciate it." And, I said my goodbyes, and I left. And about 2 years later in Philly, I'm coming down the hallway. Flyers were playing the Bruins, and I see Doc out sharpening skates. And I walk up to give him a hug and chat, and he tells me to just keep walking. I go, "What?" He goes, "Just keep walking." So I kept walking, and he ran behind me, handed me a paper bag with my 3 sweaters in it that he kept all that time. Yeah.
That's awesome.
My home, my away, and the original 6 with the B on the front.
Oh,
he kept them for me, and he gave them to me, and that was really nice. So I've got them all, which is really.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but you didn't take it personally, because that's just the way Harry was back then.
Well, if he was mad at you, he was mad at you. And going to salary arbitration was something that, didn't make him very happy. And so, when you did that, you knew that your time was numbered there. And so shortly after that, I was dealt to the Flyers. So yeah, it was something that happened. But you know how bad it was, guys? I walked into the locker room like 3 or 4 hours after they traded me, and there was already another guy's name on my jersey in my stall. It was hanging there. I walked in, and I'm like, I see Gord Murphy's name on the back of the jersey, 28 in my stall, and I was like, boy, that hurts. That really hurts. That's a stinger.
See you later.
And Kenny kept going, "I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry."
Oh, gosh. That's great stuff. Hey, gals, really appreciate your time. Thanks for doing this, pal. We'll have you on again
Always
soon.
a pleasure, guys. Again, great job on Sunday.
Thanks.
Awesome.
You too. Thanks,
All
man.
right. Garry Galley, Hockey Night in Canada, Sportsnet.
I was going to ask for one of his sweaters for up here behind me, but it didn't seem like the right time to take one from him.
When he gets rolling, man, he gets rolling. He was chatty today.
I love it.
Man, those stories are great. I love that kind of stuff.
That's a really good story.
When we do this show, we're doing Leafs reaction and we're talking with the league, but there's so many hilarious hockey storytellers.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like Spit and Chicklets does such a great job with that, getting guys on, and it's a different type of thing, but him telling those stories are so great. I love that kind of stuff.
It's the best too, because I would say maybe the end of your career around that time, I feel like things got so tight, and I don't know, like when my dad played, their stories are all like.
But there's some teams that wouldn't give you like a hockey bag to leave. You'd have to put in a garbage bag.
No.
Yeah, that was my experience at university one year. They had
I'm telling you.
that.
There's a few clubs. There's a few players.
My
that
junior
had,
B team went bankrupt and sold our sweaters. I couldn't get my Soyuz Heat jersey from from back in the day. Thanks, guys.
Can't take the hockey bag.
Like, how much money could you have made from selling a set of sweaters?
Bag.
Oh my God.
Here's a garbage bag.
That's sad.
Do you want to do game time now? Because we're not done with the Oilers here.
Well, I was going to bring up the Oilers in game time. If we could do
Okay,
it
then, yeah, hit it.
All right. It's game time. Presented by Bet365. Visit the app for the latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. So yeah, 3 really good hockey games tonight. There's a few games on tonight. How many games we got? 1, 2, 3, 4,
9,
5,
I
6,
think.
7.
Really good.
7 games.
Seven.
7 games,
close.
but 3 excellent games. Bruins, Tampa, Edmonton, Florida, and Dallas, New York are 3 excellent hockey matches. But
Okay, just focus on.
I'm focusing on the Oilers,
Yes.
who I looked at I was expecting the Cats to be pretty big favorites in this game, but it's pretty even money, minus 110 on both sides. I have concerns for the Oilers heading into this game.
I do too. Ekblad's back.
Yeah.
Montour's back.
Mhm.
This was a team that was just hoping to keep their head above water, just enough to get these guys back, and they did way better than anyone thought.
Yeah, they're 7-2-1 in their last 10. It's like when Boston was without their guys last year. Instead of keeping their head above water, they crushed the league. If you look at my fancy stats, the Florida Panthers are the best team in the league by expected goals against, like best defensive team in the league.
I saw a chart the other day about Ekman Larson turning it around.
Yeah, he's having a great year.
Yeah, he's playing really well.
So we are of the theory of, and I believe it was Ken Holland that kind of brought this whole thing up about American Thanksgiving being like this cut line.
Yeah.
It was him?
I think it was him.
Oh, no.
He's
Yeah,
having
if I'm not
regrets about that.
mistaken, don't quote me, but
I won't.
it's kind of ironic that his Oilers are coming up this week to that cut line. And I look at the schedule here of the 4 games, Florida, Carolina, Washington this week,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think they're going to make it, guys.
I mean, I got 3 teams in the NHL with a lower winning percentage than them. So they're 4th last in terms of winning percentage right now.
They're-
Minus 14 goal differential.
I have them now not making the playoffs.
Oh, whoa. Okay, so everyone, I would say, in doing analysis is saying, but they're going to figure it out. And I've been saying that.
Do you have them in or out in April?
You know, my thoughts right now are, okay, the Pacific Division is Vegas, Vancouver, LA. They're not going to catch any of those. Those are 3 good teams to me. They're not catching them. So they're looking at a wild card spot, and those teams are not very good. St. Louis, Arizona, Anaheim, Seattle. Like, I'm still saying yes.
So, according to Bet365, they're still very heavy favorites to make it. They're minus 170 favorites to make it, plus 140 to miss.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
the
saying
depth
miss.
of the West is
I
not
say
great.
miss too.
Who's in? The Blues are no good. Arizona?
But
Anaheim, Seattle,
Oilers
Calgary,
good?
maybe?
Okay, forget about
Mini?
teams. Forget about teams. Tell me how many points gets you into the playoffs. Okay, 'cause
92.
last year it was higher. I think it was 95.
95 last year,
Yeah.
but I'm
so
looking
you
at
think
this.
the number's lower this year?
I think the West is weak enough that 92-3 can get you in, which to get there,
Yeah.
you need 80 points, and there's, quick math, 68 games left.
132 on the table.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Yeah, that sounds right. Yes, it is right. Way to go. Oh, sorry, I started the lack of faith for a moment.
It's just not a hat rack, you know?
Fair enough. Okay.
Okay. So
Yeah, they need a lot of the remaining points.
give me a clip. This is where my math runs out.
Yeah, no.
They're going to go like a 700 clip.
No,
it feels like.
no, not that high.
Pretty high.
Yeah, but
Close
not
to
that
it.
high. I want to say 640,
Okay.
635
Okay.
clip.
Doable
The last
for a
play,
very good team.
the
No.
last,
Okay, hold on. Like, where do you come up with doable? Please.
Well,
Where do you come up with doable?
I bet you their winning percentage last year was 640.
4 teams. I think 4 teams last year. Pull up last year's.
Fine.
Give me last year's.
Oh, I'm good.
I have it right in front of me.
Okay.
Their last year's winning percentage was 665.
Ha!
How many teams? How many teams?
were at that clip?
Yeah.
Like
the Vegas Golden Knights were 667. Colorado was 665. Dallas was 659.
So starting tonight,
Boston was 823 last year.
go away.
so starting tonight,
Go all the way
so
away.
starting tonight, they're going to hit a 640 clip, 650 clip. Starting tonight, the rest of the year, based on what you've seen up until this point, starting tonight, they are going 640 percentage.
Yes,
Okay.
Your Honor.
All right.
Don't see it. I've watched a ton of them this year. They don't have the same sting.
Okay.
They're not the same team.
Here's why. Let me defend my answer. I think it is too important at this point of McDavid and Draisaitl's contract schedules that they be good, which means they're going to do whatever it takes, including trade assets, to improve.
You heard it here
They're going to
first.
get a goalie.
I think they tell McDavid to have more points than Matthew Joseph.
Tonight, the
And maybe
Edmonton
won't
Oilers.
tell them, but they're going to cross their fingers.
Tonight, the Edmonton Oilers start their 640 winning percentage with Calvin Pickard
Oh my God.
in net.
Listen, it doesn't look good.
Well, it's not
from where I'm
good.
at. But it's there. Hyman, Kane, Draisaitl,
Hyman is
McDavid.
So good.
Hyman is so good. Kane had a natural hat trick the other day. Won 3 of their last 4, right? That sound right?
I think their biggest issue is when these guys aren't on the ice,
Yeah, it's a big issue.
right?
Yeah.
All
Okay,
right.
who's helping you win? Right now, it's a tough grind for the Oilers.
Quick one for the Canucks tonight. My Canucks, as I like to talk about to our Vancouver audience.
Lifelong Canuck guy.
Big time Canucks fan. They're playing the Sharks tonight on home ice. Get right spot after Tocchet. Maybe we'll play the clip after the break of Tocchet getting after them on the weekend. I like them minus a goal and a half.
Oh, yeah.
Quinn Hughes over a point and a half, and Elias Pettersson goal for plus 400. So that's a nice little same game play for you. For them to beat up on the Sharks, which they're going to do tonight.
Also, the Sharks have had some wins, so they've kind of can feel good about themselves. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm saying it's good. Like they can be complacent tonight.
They're going to be
just
they're dead.
take
They
a
get
licking.
smoked.
Yeah.
So that was Game Time, presented by Bet365. Visit the app for the latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 18 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly.
And the last time you talked trash on San Jose, they beat the Oilers.
For sure.
That did happen.
I liked them. I believe I liked them minus 4.5 goals in
Minus
that game.
4.5 was the call that day. They won. Whoops.
All right,
a bit of a
still,
mush.
we're going
Please
to take
play
a break.
responsibly.
We're going to take a break.
Yeah, we
Still
can.
lots
Yep.
to talk to, including Billy Guerin giving it to the Minnesota Wild, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what he really expects, but
Better. than this.
better. We'll talk Calgary Flames as well. Elliot had a report on their captain, Michael Backlund.
I want to talk about Patrick Laine.
Columbus. What is going
boy.
on there? Plenty of meat still on the bone here on the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. Make sure you're back after these words. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee back. Close out Real Kyper and Bourne Show. Get into some news and notes around the league. Patrick Laine, healthy scratched against the Philadelphia Flyers. Prior to that, Johnny Gaudreau was benched, I think, for the whole third period. We had Doug McLean on Friday.
Yeah.
And he said, maybe a couple of shifts here and there, but you're not winning benching, what do you say, $20 million.
Buddy, they didn't
All
just
period.
bench $20 million. They benched Damon Severson for the whole period, too. They just gave him an 8-year, $50 million contract, which
How
I
much?
would like to note. $50 million for Damon Severson. That might be the worst contract in the NHL for me. I hate that contract. Wow. Very personally mad about it for some reason, but it's just so bad.
I just see this organization over the last few years, and they can accumulate some talent, but they can never get them to fit together.
Well, and they seem to be taking like damaged goods talent. Like it doesn't seem to be, I don't know, people don't seem content there. The team kept like through all whatever numbers I look at, just, 30th in the league in even strength shot attempts against, 30th in, power play expected goals. They're 30th in everything. They're minus 19 goal differential. They're terrible.
So you go out and sign Johnny Gaudreau, and you got Patrick Laine. Okay, who's your center for those guys? Like Boone Jenner?
Boone Jenner.
That's your center. So you're going to make the playoffs now with Boone Jenner, Cole Sillinger, Sean Crowley. Like good. Like Sean Crowley's great.
Great player.
But he's got to be in that 3.5, 4 spot.
He's Sam Lafferty and a bit.
Right? And he was amazing in Boston. But you can't squeeze him into anything he's not.
No.
So Fantilli's their most gifted guy, and he just joined the team like a few months ago. But how do you go and spend that type of money and not think about who's going to be passing the puck to these guys who are pure shooters?
Because you just need good players. They need so many good players that if one of them wants to come, you sign them. It's not a part of a strategy to me. It's just, how do we get good players? My issue with Columbus is that it's like every other team who believes the hype of their own prospects. I remember Anaheim's last iteration of going to be great was, here comes Sam Steele and Max Jones and whoever else every other team has. That's Columbus to me. It's Chinnikov and Sillinger, and like, these are good players, but every team has a couple of good young guys. They're not special there. So
we hardly see a change for a general manager during the season. Usually when those changes come, they're off season. But do we envision anything happening with Jarmo?
DFL in the East right now. They are last place by a good distance. You just went through the Babcock thing. He's in year what there? 8?
Over 10, I think.
10 years? And this is the state of the organization? How is that not enough to be like, okay, seen enough, time to try something different?
Yeah, that's a touchy situation for an organization that has just never been able to put it all together and truly compete. They've had some mild success.
The glory year.
Did they have a year where they?
Yes, remember we had Portsline on a couple years ago, and he talked about the one year that they swept the Lightning?
Oh, yeah.
They called it the glory year.
That's right. That's bleak.
And they lost to who'd they lose to in 6 games? They lost to Pittsburgh.
Oh.
And the year that the Capitals won the Stanley Cup, Columbus was up 2-0 on them in the road. Like, they went on the road, won the first 2 games, and they benched put Grubauer in. They came back, won that series. Right. But those are their high points.
Anyway, they need some, I feel for the good fans there because there's lots of them.
All right. News we never want to hear. Milan Lucic to be arraigned after an alleged assault over the weekend.
Domestic violence, right?
Yeah, domestic violence.
Yeah, so the Boston Bruins announced over the weekend that Lucic would be taking an indefinite leave of absence from the team. The Bruins' written statement said the organization takes these matters very seriously, and we will work with the Lucic family to provide any support and assistance they may need.
Arraignment on an assault charge, I think expected Tuesday.
Some tough alleged details.
Yeah, and I imagine we won't probably hear from the Boston Bruins until they can collect all their facts. But I don't envision seeing Lucic playing again.
That's probably the end of his time. But, not knowing how this plays out, it seems like pretty much the end of the road there if this stuff's true anyway.
Yeah.
All right, Bill Guerin. Is this their first year where they cannot use the money they bought out?
They got
on Ryan Suter,
14 schmil and dead money or something like that. Is that right? Yes.
Right, and Parisi.
Yeah.
So, he's not happy with where the team's sitting, but kind of expected, do we not?
This year and next, it's $14.743 million of dead money in a flat cap world.
This year and next?
Yeah. And then after that, it just drops down to 833. So less than $1 million. But I think to his point, Kip, there's a lot of good players on this team. It's Kaprizov and Boldy and Zuccarello, Eric Sinek, Foligno. Like, they have hockey players here. Spurgeon, Brodin.
I thought they were bleeding chances.
Yeah. But
against the Leafs, defensively, you thought they'd be a better team and solid, and it's just like they can't get
some shifts where they looked really big and really good along the walls.
Yeah, they beat the Leafs in a lot of puck battles.
They have a big, strong team for sure, and I do think that when the standings shake out at the end of the year, I was telling you guys about the 2 teams in wild card spots right now are St. Louis and Arizona. Anaheim and Seattle behind them, Calgary, Minnesota. Like, I still think Minnesota is one of the teams that gets themselves into that conversation by the time it's over, but.
And they have a good goalie,
yes.
Gustafsson.
Yeah. And Fleury was good for them the other day. So I do think they're better than this, and I don't blame Guerin for being like, okay, what's going on here?
No, the Pittsburgh Penguins, they look like they're chasing in the standings, but they have mustered, I think, 4, if I'm not mistaken, shutouts, including one last night against Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
4 shutouts with a Carlson on the back end.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty good.
They're just such a hot and cold team. Like, their ceiling is really high. When they're good, they're very good. I can't make sense of their record at 9-8, but how about Nedeljkovic? He scores in the American League.
Yes.
Shoots it in the net. They call him up the next day. He pitches how many save shutout? 39 save shutout, and then wears a Cleveland Browns jersey in his postgame presser. Having a pretty good few days for Nedeljkovic.
We mentioned
that's bold.
The Browns kid?
Like, as much as you talk about the Penguins being a popular team, and there was early in their, around Sid, and that time was not great for them. But since then, they've been really popular. But they pale in comparison to the Steelers. Yeah. The Steelers are everything. There. Like, the Steelers, there is nothing that matters more.
It's
the Steelers.
America.
But no, the Steelers, but there's other cities in America where, like, baseball's big, and like there's no rivalry there in terms of what the biggest thing. For him to go into a press conference and wear a Cleveland's Brown jersey that's gutsy. Yeah. Like, you better play really well.
And
or
he stood there hands on hip, just like, take it.
First stinker, get him out of there. Yeah, like, as a goalie, that was a big mistake. Big mistake.
Speaking of Columbus, the Flyers won their 5th straight against them. Like, can they stay in the hunt for a playoff spot?
They're currently 2nd in the Metro at 10-7-1. I will tell you that if you look at expected goals for and against, they're a good team. As much as any team that is where they are at the top of the standings, they create a lot. They don't give up a ton.
Awful power play.
They're playing pretty well.
I watched them play Vegas. What day was that? I'm not sure when it was, but I watched them play Vegas.
Yeah.
They're right there with Vegas. It was a good game the whole way through.
I mean, Couturier's back and healthy. Konechny's an effective player. Tippett can fly. Like, Lawton's useful. Atkinson can score. Like, there's guys here. I don't believe that they're good. I don't think they make the playoffs. But
Torts,
the numbers like them.
Play hard.
Oh, I can't imagine.
Their third pair is Igor Zamula and
players
Luis
would take their foot off the gas pedal one day going to a Torts practice.
Do you think he's watching Columbus just going,
But isn't that kind of the point? It's like they won't take their foot off the gas until the day they do, and then they never put it back on the gas.
Well, but that breaks. That usually runs a window of about 3 or 4 years, right?
Correct.
Where you just had enough of his crap.
Yeah, their power play is running at 11.5% so far this year.
All right, on Saturday night,
that figured out.
Second intermission, our Elliot Friedman was talking Calgary Flames. Michael Backlund asked teammates to end the noise. Like, what do you make of that?
Wow, I think it's pretty clear what he's talking about, the noise.
Just quit asking for trades, you jerks.
But what teammates? There's no teammates.
Well,
there's just one guy.
You don't think it could be Hanifin, Tanev?
But they're not.
It's not like Tanev's out there.
Buddy, there's not a chance Backlund goes to Hanifin unless there's anything public. Yeah. When it's public, then you can go. But when it comes to business behind the scenes for Hanifin, Tanev, that's been around for 50 years. Yeah. But this is not teammates. Backlund was talking to one guy.
Yes. Mr. Zadorov.
Yes.
And he said, hey, and he looked up at him and said, stop it.
Yes. Pretty much.
Well, what are you supposed to do?
We talked about this didn't I tell you last week it pissed off his teammates?
I don't know. Did you?
I don't know. Yeah, probably. I think I did.
Let's revisit it. It pissed off his teammates?
Yeah, yes. They got pissed off.
But so what do his teammates think, or what do you think that Zadorov did in this case? Do you think him and Milstein spoke and said, okay, after the game, I'm going to throw a big hit. After the game, you're going to go on Twitter. Like, what do they think happened, or what do you think really happened?
I think the whole idea was to make it abundantly clear to a Toronto market, the biggest market out there, a team that desperately could use him, that we're going to tell everybody that we're going to leak the information, and we're going to tell people that we want out, and this would be a perfect fit.
Sure, fine. I'm okay with that plan. You think he...
Listen, we have to go back to like the Marc-Andre Fleury with the Alan Walsh, big sword. God. Like,
That was the funniest thing ever.
really
It's an
find
all-timer.
it.
It
I
really
really
is.
find it hard to believe that you would do something like that without your client knowing something about it. So,
Yeah.
I can't tell you for sure if he knew,
Right.
if they knew or didn't know. I know as an agent, I wouldn't never have done anything against my client unless they knew about it.
Yeah.
And listen, it's not the first time an agent and Milstein's, I think, a pretty sharp guy.
Mhm.
I do. I think
Mhm.
he's done amazing work for some of his clients. It may work. It
Look at the contract he got Kane.
it could work,
Right.
But that means that you're putting pressure on a rookie general manager and Craig Conroy, and there's the ability that Backlund can turn around and say, "Hey, listen, we want him out of the room now," and that could force a hand. We'll have to see how long it takes for Zadorov to get traded.
Do you think if Calgary started playing well and having some success, they would then say, hey, like, can we keep this guy? Like, he's a part of the solution here for us. We still think we can get in playoffs?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I imagine that there is a possibility that winning solves everything, but Zadorov, here's the kicker: Zadorov wants a lot of money next year, so it's just not about winning now.
Right.
It's about there's a number of guys going to UFA. If you turn around and want Hannafin back again, and you want Zadorov back again, hey, we got great results, and our team's great on the blue line. It's okay. Well, what's it going to cost?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a whole new ball of wax.
Yeah. That reminds me, a little bit, I forget the example I had. But it is like teams that go to the trade deadline and are pretty good. Like if Calgary has success, they will still have the shortcomings they currently have.
Yes.
And so it's like even if you're having success, this Flames team might want to sell. I look at the St. Louis Blues team that won a Stanley Cup. I think they traded Kevin Shattenkirk or Paul Stastny in season, like one of their guys who was going to be a UFA. I forget the example of which player it was, but like Armstrong recognized that they were going to lose this guy for nothing. And I think that's the case of Calgary. Even if you're a good team, you may have to move off a guy.
Like this move by a new captain too, though. Backlund, to make it about the team.
Right.
It's one guy.
Yeah.
It's like that's kind of it's a pretty good captain move, don't you think?
Yes,
That's
I do.
fine. I would have thought it was a better move if he would have said Zadorov's got to knock it off.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that too.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Last thing, if we have time for Rick Talk, do we want to hear talk before we go or no?
Well, it's something that is near and dear to Kyper's heart, and I want to just make sure that I put the clip in, but I think I did. I'm just double checking.
Yeah, Rick talking about not being happy with the Canucks, who are
Which is
12-5-1.
Well,
that they can only lose 2 games, and the coach is really ticked off.
Well,
that's a new bar set
It
in
is.
Vancouver.
Expectations.
he said something about that'll be. Well, let's play it quickly, and then we'll react off of it. Talk.
Yeah, it's the team that's willing to do the right things. You know what I mean? And Seattle did. We didn't. We had some awful changes. Awful changes. You changes lose you hockey games, lose you playoff series. You have to change properly, and we didn't.
I assume too the change coming out of the icing right before the Alexiak goal, their 1-1 goal.
See, I love that.
Kip loves a good line change.
It's the little things that don't get noticed that are different.
Leafs are currently leading the league in bench minors right now.
5 or 6?
6.
6. Yeah, that needs to get cleaned up.
I would say.
Okay, just like that, our show is over. And once again, we've solved nothing. Our thanks to Garry Galley. Our thanks to JB, Sammy, Derek Brandeo, and Jen Rolnick. And we are all back here tomorrow to do it all over again. Make sure you're along for the ride. Have a great night, everybody.